tale marketing. They'll never forget. It's a sure bet. Fairy tale marketing. Tempted by a devil's kiss, promising unending bliss. Drag me into an abyss. Hypnotized by your eyes, desire you can't disguise. Seduced by your lies. Tempted by a devil's kiss, promising unending bliss. Drag me into an abyss. What felt so good to start is shattering my heart. Loving you's a dying art. Tempted by a devil's kiss, promising unending bliss. Drag me into an abyss. No string sounds fun, loving on the run, till you're the lonely one. Tempted by a devil's kiss, promising unending bliss. Drag me into an abyss. A heart as cold as ice, you're my greatest vice. I keep paying the price. I'm addicted to your devil's kiss and you. What do I do? I'm addicted to your devil's kiss and you. What do I do? I know I must break free before I lose the best of me. End this living purgatory. Tempted by a devil's kiss, promising unending bliss. Drag me into an abyss. I've got news for you. I'm ready for something new. I know what I've got to do. Goodbye, devil's kiss. I know you miss. Heartbreaks I won't miss. Know what I've got to do. Goodbye, devil's kiss. I know you miss. Goodbye, devil's kiss. Goodbye. Read me a book just the other day, taught me to see things a whole new way. Said my problems were just opportunities, if I could only learn to change the way I see. So I counted up my assets just like it said to do. Here's what I found that I can offer you. I've got 30 things I can't sell. Car in the driveway that's broke as hell. $75,000 in debt. College degree that ain't been paid off yet. One sterling silver necklace a friend gave to me, and 39 years experience living in poverty. Well, I scratched my head at the bits I found, but I didn't quit yet, the advice seemed sound. Woo. It told me to keep a tally and to take measure of all the things I found, my hidden treasure. So I counted up my assets just like it said to do. Here's a few more things I can offer you. I got a voice like an angel, you can order it to go. I can write you a song, poem, or book, you know. I can teach you to paint or to draw if you please. I can speak to a large group or small with great ease. I can offer a couch to the to sink. A unique experience, living poor for 5,000 a week. Felt so much better as I wrote down this letter. All I need now is people who pay. A little money goes a very long way. Maybe this'll be a great story to tell. If only I can find someone who'll buy the things I can sell. Ooh, won't somebody please buy the things I can sell? I was born in flame and ashes. I will rebuild the world that everyone else trashes. You have the matches, you have the flame. You can light my world on fire, but watch me rise again. I will rebuild the world that everyone else trashes. You have the matches, you have the flame. You can light my world on fire, but watch me rise again. Watch me rise again. Let me warn you, the pain is nothing new. Yes, you can hurt me, but you're not the only one. No, you're not the only one. There's nothing you can do that hasn't already been done. Created the game, you made the rules. I played my part, but I refuse to stay the fool. You can break my heart, but you can't break me. I'm rising up, I'm reaching out, I'm soaring free. I'm soaring free. I am the phoenix, rising up from flame and ashes. I will rebuild the world where everyone else crashes. You have the matches, you have the flame. light this world on fire, but I will rise again. I am the phoenix, watch me rise again.
Alrighty, y'all. Actually hear us. That's beautiful. You guys were hearing dead silence. Isn't that lovely? It's what you always wanted. That's exactly what you came here for. Dead silence. Good job, me. Nice to see you, Malachi. All right, so I'm going to read through what we wrote last week. I shouldn't be. I just unmuted myself. So, any rate, we're going to run through what we wrote last week. Let me know if you can hear me. Can you put that in the chat? We'll see how many votes we've got. We've got 5 votes. That's a good place to end the poll. So we're going to back up with Seymour. Can anybody hear me? Or am I muted? Okay, good. All right. Hey, it's Calby. Great to see you, my brother. All right. So we're going to read back through the chapter we wrote last week, and then we will officially get started. Now, the votes have come in. People want to follow Seymour back in his adventures with Delilah. Let's see how long it takes him to figure out what Delilah's up to and make the connection, and then get back on track with helping to figure out where where Hawkeye is. And then we have not touched Mortis's story in forever, so we may end up diving a little bit into that story today too. Or we may go jump back into Hawkeye and find out how we need to make a decision kind of about how it is that he gets out of the spot he's in. All right. Chapter 16, Delilah's Dilemma. The drive to the nearest town took 20 minutes, but with Delilah present, Seymour felt like it took... Let me enlarge this because you guys usually have a little bit of trouble seeing. So let me know. Is that a good size for it? The drive to the nearest town took 20 minutes, but with Delilah present, Seymour felt like it took seconds. It's good to see you again, he told her. He refrained from adding how much he'd missed her, judging that to be a bit much. Delilah was a box of red flags on 2 legs, and he knew it. But she'd always made his life more interesting. He did miss that about her. He'd never been bored when she was around. It's good to see you too, Seymour, she murmured. I can't believe how lucky I got back there. Who knows what might have happened if some other man came by instead of you, she said. He felt the warmth of her touch on his leg and found himself struggling to keep his eyes on the road. Glad I could be of service, he told her, nearly choking in his surprise. You said you were headed out to Mammoth Cave? She asked before moving that hand further up his thigh. Yes, he managed to get out. Trying to locate a friend. The hand paused. Really? Something I could help with? Seymour shook his head. I doubt it. Best bet is for the 2 of us to focus on getting you back on the road so you can get on to Nashville. Oh, she said as the warm hand withdrew. Guess you don't have time for getting reacquainted then. Seymour pulled into the nearest auto supply store and put the car in park. Reacquainted? How do you mean? Delilah's lips slowly curled up into a smile as she leaned toward him. I do miss our time together, don't you? It had been a hot minute since the last time Seymour had been on a date, and the scent of Delilah was filling the car. Temptation was calling his name, and he wasn't entirely sure he wanted to say no. It was likely a bad idea, but Seymour rarely met a bad idea he didn't fall in love with. You sure? I mean, He gave a perfunctory nod to good sense by at least offering the question, but that was silenced by her lips meeting his. "I'm sure," she murmured, "Nashville can wait." All the reasons he and Delilah hadn't worked as a couple flooded his mind as she wrapped her arms around his neck and pulled him in closer. The temperature in that car felt about 40 degrees hotter than it had just moments earlier, and all thoughts of Mammoth Caves, Hawkeye, Lauren, and the entire streaming community leaked from his brain. She broke away, leaving him panting, and reached a finger to wipe a bit of her lipstick that was on his face. "Can't give you all the good stuff before we get my car fixed, now can I?" That statement brought him back to earth. "Right, your car." He wrestled with the seatbelt and managed to get himself out of the car and walked around to open Delilah's door, as every good Southern gentleman should. Not that he was much of a gentleman, but he did try sometimes. "Ladies first," he told her, as he escorted her into the auto supply building. He couldn't help but admire the view as she walked before him. They walked up to the counter, and Delilah took the lead in describing what happened to the vehicle. The parts man did a quick look-up on his computer. "I am sorry to tell you this, miss, but we're going to have to order that part from another store. We don't have it in stock here." Delilah's face scrunched up, and she looked close to tears. "How long is that going to take? I'm going to miss my appointment in Nashville." The parts man looked at Seymour, who shrugged, and then back at Delilah. "Computer says we can get it here in 2 days, but that's the soonest, and you'll need to pay for it before we can ship it." Seymour stepped up. "How much is it going to cost?" He held his breath before the parts man told him, "It's $80 for a used one, or $250 for a new. If you want it installed, it's an additional $200. Seymour thought about the credit card in his wallet, the one he'd not wanted to touch. It was supposed to be for emergencies only. He guessed he could count this as an emergency. "We'll take a new one for $250, and I'll pay for the installation," he told the man. It was almost physically painful to pull that card out of his wallet, but he wasn't about to leave Delilah stranded. Once the payment was made and they left the shop, Delilah grabbed his hand. "I guess I'm going to have to find myself a place to stay while we wait, huh?" He hadn't thought about that. "No, I'll handle it. I'll get you a place to stay while I go check out Mammoth Caves." She stopped walking and looked at him. "You're going to leave me here, all alone? You sure you don't want to stay with me?" "Why don't you come with me to Mammoth Caves? Maybe they have a cabin we can rent out there while I see about looking for my friend," he offered, trying valiantly to allow his loyalty to his friends to win out over the desire for Delilah. She pouted. "Oh, Seymour, I don't want to go to Mammoth Caves. I don't want to sleep in some old cabin. I want to spend time with you. Can't we just stay here, please?" She took a step closer and trailed a finger along his jawline. "I promise I'll make it worth your while." Now, there we are at the end of chapter 16, and Seymour is thoroughly distracted by darling Delilah. You gotta love the woman. She's efficient. All right. Now, a touch larger still. Okay, sorry, Cal. No worries, no worries. I know that I'm asking y'all to read a screen, and sometimes that can be a challenge. So we're going to do our title, our new title. And this will be chapter 17. Pretty much everybody voted for Seymour to be the lead in this. Seymour's Discovery. Now, the question is, how does Seymour figure out that Delilah is connected to the disappearance of Hawkeye? So, how does Seymour find out the truth? This is no accident. He's been lulled into it. Engineered, so to speak. Her text messages get revealed. Reveal the truth. Truth. That's one option. Let's see. She confesses it in her sleep. Let's see. She feels guilty and tells him. Or let's see, what else? What else could happen? He finds a note in her pocket. That's some options. You guys can also give some other options. We can pick the one that sounds best, but these are just some starter options. Your neighbor was just at your front doorstep wanting to show you how grateful she was for having shoveled the driveway and walkways. I can imagine. And yes, I'm pretty sure you are exhausted from shoveling snow. She talks in her sleep. Yeah, that makes sense. So we got 2 votes for talks in her, confesses it in her sleep. I'll give y'all a few more minutes to make a decision how we want to play this out. And of course, that's going to break Seymour's heart. But not to mention, he's going to be ticked off a little bit about having spent all that money on her. Under no circumstances did Delilah feel guilty and actually confess the truth. So we got enough votes going on. All right. Near the car repair shop. There we go. And tried not to think too much about the bill that was going to become. Oh, you know, that's why it's so weird. It's sized as heading 1. This should be normal text. That should be the heading. Let's move that back in the direction. There we go. Oh. Yeah, we can actually see what you're writing. Oh, nice. glad to know I've got it sized appropriately now. Oh, let's see. Found when you were playing the caveman, hitting his computer with a rock to make it work. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. Got it. Was wondering. You have distracted my audience, sir. It's okay. I'll forgive you. All right. Let's see. Tom is Linda's husband. He's a part of our guitar community, Malachi. All right. He's peeping. Yeah, nice cow. One day. Oh, all right. So that's as close as we're gonna get. I am well, no, I don't do 50 Shades of Grey. And what you will discover about me and romance writing is that I like to leave it with lots of room to the imagination. I do not think people need graphic details given to them as to how things work. I am not that kind of writer. I write clean, or at least, even if there's not always the clean to it, you are not given full details as to the other stuff. believe, well, we've just gotten the tool in that would allow him to do that work, Malachi. That's why it hasn't been done before. It was coming in from China and actually came a week early. And then I have to clear off the table so he's got space to work on it. But that is part of the plan for this coming week, is to get those guitars fixed up, truss rods tightened, all that good stuff, so that, you know, he can show them off on stream. And then we get to decide what to do with them. Especially as we're going to have to move in a month. So, hooray! Yes, several hours of shadiness later. I mean, I doubt somebody talking in their sleep is going to be so clear. Okay, guys. Time. Yes, he has been neglected for chapters and chapters. I was just talking about that. Oh, that's a good idea. All right. Let's see. Does he um look at her cell phone? He didn't want to risk her catching him spying on her. Just so typical. Oh my goodness. All right. He's got a good memory. Oh, wait, no. Timmy? No worries, man. No worries. Alright, so now that he's got a clue as to what's going on, what does he do? Alright. Lurk. Hey, Jeremy! How's the game going? Alright, so what should he do? Head to the police? Call the number texting Delilah? Or wait for her to wake and confront her? 120 Finland? Yes, there's always lots going on. Oh, no, no worries, Cal. You gotta go do your workout. Do your guitar work. Alright. Ooh, we got a 50-50 split. That's cool. Now we got 5 votes for call the number. You know what we're going to do? We're going to have him do both. Too busy shoveling snow. No, no worries. Not a big deal. Oh, let's see. Sorry I missed your stream. Watch the replay. That's cool. Yeah, actually, I got there in the middle of Cal's show, too. Been working on putting together our tax information and going ahead and filing this year. We technically didn't make enough money that we don't have to file, but we're hoping that maybe it'll provide proof of income and maybe help us get into a place. So the time it takes is worth it if it helps us solve that problem. All right. Let's see. So she had said DevFreeze. Creating late. Good to hear from you. Glad to see you here. Oh my goodness. Yeah, welcome to the chat. This is where we are writing the story. And Seymour has just discovered that he's being played. So actually, this is pretty much the end of that chapter. So I'm going to read through it so you guys know where we are, and then we'll see what else we can get done before the end of the show. So, chapter 17, Seymour's Discovery. Seymour found a nice, reasonably priced Airbnb that was available near the car parts store and not too far down the road. He paid for 2 nights' stay with the credit card and tried not to think too much about the bill that would be arriving in a month. He wasn't sure how he'd pay it. Being laid off from his job in IT stank. This sure does look nice, Delilah said as they unlocked the door of the place and stepped inside. It was a small room with its own private entrance and a large queen bed that was tastefully decorated. Towels and linens on a small shelf to the left, a bookshelf to the right, and an IKEA dresser rounded out the furnishings. You first, he said, allowing her to settle in. IKEA dresser along with a large stuffed seat beside the bookshelf. You first, he said, allowing her to settle in. This wasn't exactly on my bingo card for today, but I'm glad we reconnected. She draped her jacket on the peg on the back of the door as she stepped inside and sat on the edge of the bed, kicking her red leather pumps off. I'm so glad I can get off my feet. I love those shoes, but they do kill the feet after a while, she said with a smile as she crooked a finger in his direction and gestured for him to come closer. Don't be shy, Seymour, she winked. We got a whole lot of time to kill, and I know just how I'd like to spend that time. He swallowed and shut the door behind him, stepping close enough she was able to slide her hands up under his shirt. Her touch was like fire, and he was having a hard time thinking about much of anything else. Seymour woke to the darkness, somewhat disoriented as to where he was. The warmth of Delilah's body beside him felt good, and he reached for her. I don't want to hurt him, she murmured. I don't want to hurt anyone. He frowned at the words and looked over at her, only to realize she was sleeping. He'd forgotten she was a sleep talker. What was on her mind tended to come out of her mouth when she was dreaming. I'm sorry, Simon, she mumbled. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. There were about 1,000 ways to interpret those words, and none of them good. He kept still and kept listening, wondering if she would give away more information. Dad's so high. I didn't know how else to pay him, she said. Please, Davries, you don't know what you're asking. Ugh, Seymour thought. So this is what it's come down to? A thought came to him then. He shouldn't do it, but the temptation was there. Her cell phone was on the dresser, just a short distance away. The night air was cool as he slid out of the bed and tiptoed over to the dresser, keeping an eye on her as he went. He didn't want to risk her catching him spying on her. He opened up the cell phone, and it prompted him for her code to unlock it. He bit his lip thinking, and then tried the one she'd used when they were still together. It worked. He shook his head. I told her she needed to be more careful with her security. He flipped open her text app and scrolled through it. That's when he saw it. Keep him distracted. Do not let him get to Mammoth Caves. The phone number wasn't one he recognized. He opened the text thread and his mouth dropped open. They'd been tracking his every move, and they dispatched Delilah when he got close enough. The whole thing was staged. And they had Hawkeye. He wrote down the phone number, pulled his own phone out of his pocket, and took pictures of the text messages. It was evidence he could provide to the police if need be. He'd always been an idiot when it came to Delilah. He couldn't believe he'd been suckered in by her yet again. He debated what to do. Should he leave her here and head on to Mammoth Caves? Go to the police with the evidence? What was the right play? He just wasn't sure. He decided to call the number texting Delilah. Would he find Mortis on the other end of the line? He tucked her phone into his pocket, slipped on his clothes and shoes, and headed outside to make the call. A man's voice answered. Why are you calling me? I told you no contact. Did you get your assignment completed? A sudden rush of anger and outrage filled Seymour, but he decided to hang up without answering. The voice definitely didn't belong to Mortis, and he didn't know what to say. Davries. Was that the name of the man who answered? He debated taking this whole thing to the police, but he didn't want to out Delilah if she truly was a victim of that man. Instead, he contented himself with going back inside and sitting in the love seat beside the bed, watching Delilah sleep. His mind was too busy to return to sleep. And watching Delilah. Let's see. His mind was too busy to go back to sleep. I hate redundancy, so we're gotta eliminate that. All right. So here we are. It is 2:47. We've got about 10 minutes to round up, and we can choose where we go next. So now that we know where Seymour's at, let's see where we go next. Who is going to be our next? Do we return to Mortis or focus back on Hawkeye? You know, actually, I know what we need to do. I'm not going to do that poll. We need to figure out how Hawkeye gets out of his situation. That's what we really need to do. We're going to close out of that poll, because we've got a few options, and I want you to think through what we're going to do, because Hawkeye got left all by himself, right? So let me go back to the last place we left poor Hawkeye, so that you guys can see. We'll read back through that. Yeah, Hawkeye. Basically, the people who had Hawkeye left him all by himself. And the idea was that alone time in an area where he didn't know what was going to happen to him might just dislodge his sanity enough that he would be willing to do whatever they wanted him to do to get out of his situation. Yeah. Now, Hawkeye does have a photographic memory. He has the map that they want in perfect detail etched in his memory, but he's not going to tell them because he'd rather die than help their cause. This is just the kind of guy Hawkeye is. He's rough around the edges, but he's solid in terms of when you need him to be there, he's going to be there. Because that's who he is. So here's the big question we have. How does Hawkeye get out of this isolation? Because you can tell a lot about his character by what does Hawkeye do in isolation? That's probably a better question. You can tell a lot about what somebody's character by how they handle the worst possible scenario you can drop them into. You know, there's this study about rats, that they had rats and they would put them in water. Oh, okay, yeah, no worries. See you in the next one. Thanks for coming along. I guess we need to figure out, you know, I was thinking today, I'm having trouble putting my thoughts together, that's what it is. But I was thinking today that one of the things that we could potentially do to help Hawkeye get out of this impossible situation where he's all by himself, in the dark, in a cave, nobody knows where he's at exactly. They know he's in Mammoth Cave somewhere, but not exactly where. And Mammoth Cave National Park is a huge place. So the chances of somebody finding him are not good unless they know where he is already. So this leads us to a question. Is there a mole in the group that has held Hawkeye captive? That might come back for him to help him get loose. Because that is one way we could potentially help Hawkeye get liberated. That idea came to me today, so I was going to pitch it to y'all. It's up to you to decide. And if there's a mole in it, we got to figure out who that mole happens to be. One of the men with DeVries is a double agent. Okay, that's a possibility. The funny thing, it could also be the woman. So, okay, 5 votes for yes, definitely. There's a mole inside the group. Now, the question is, who is the mole? And I'll give you 3 options. The surprise one. We got 3 options. We could have it be the blonde woman who's the leader of the group. We could have it be DeVries himself, which would be a total surprise to the reader. Or we could have it be one of the men in the group. Ooh, we got a 50-50 going on for the blonde woman and one of the other men in the group. You know what would be even funnier is if it's the blonde woman plus one of the other men in the group, but they're working for 2 different agencies. Neither one of them knows that the other one is a double agent. Oof. One person did vote for DeVries. Now that's an interesting vote. All right. I kind of like that. I kind of like that idea. Okay, so the woman and DeVries. DeVries is a snake, though. But he may be acting because it's necessary, or he thinks it's necessary to save Hawkeye's life. And so we can give him the benefit of the doubt if we really wanted to. I do like him being a little snake in the grass, but you know, it's also fun if you totally shock the reader and take them in a direction they never saw coming. All right, chapter 18. The Double Agent. Okay, now he's sat in the dark. No, he's not gonna sit in the dark. He's gonna. Let's see. Yeah, let's put him as working for military intelligence. Yeah, he's not gonna have a badge on him, so it's not necessarily anything. Yeah. Ciao, Malachi. Have a great afternoon and the rest of your weekend. Thanks for stopping in. Totally appreciate it. Oh, he's already cut his own ties. Hawkeye was good enough to be able to find a rock and use them. That's where we wrote earlier. Okay, so let me go back through what I did right. Hawkeye used the worm crawl to get himself to a surface that would allow him to cut through the zip ties, holding his arms behind his back. The thick darkness surrounding him and the silence of the place was surreal, but he forced his mind to focus on the senses he had remaining to him, so that he could ground himself in reality. Once his arms were freed, he focused on undoing his legs. Standing up to stretch, he took his time thinking about what direction to head. That's when he heard the sound of footsteps coming near him. The odd thing was, it didn't sound like multiple footsteps, just a single pair. An unfamiliar male voice spoke before a flashlight came on, nearly blinding him. The tall, blond man that he recognized from the group with the blonde woman stood in front of him. He placed a finger over his lips. "I'm Officer Jacobs. I'm undercover working for military intelligence. I'm gonna get you out of here." Hawkeye felt his spirits lighten, but just as quickly tapped the brakes on his hopes. "How can I be sure?" The man gave Hawkeye a measured glance. "You can't. But given your options, what choice do you have? Are you really better off in the dark in a portion of the cave you don't know?" "You're right. Not many options." "Where are we headed?" Oh, okay, it's his finger over his lips. Oh, wait, no, no. She's not going to do that because she sees that man. She doesn't know he's an agent, so she's not going to. Yeah, that's a good question, right? No one told you to check on the prisoner. She said, I am in charge. I gives the orders. Who told you to come here? She barked a command, this time in Russian, and pointed into the darkness. Go! Hurry! They will need your help with the supplies. No, she's trying to get rid of him. Remember, she's also a double agent. So, she thinks he's part of the enemy, and she's not sure what his motives are, so she wants him nowhere near. Officer, I'm gonna say, what are we, Officer Jacobs? Couldn't afford to give up the gig too soon. Oh, yeah, at least she said CIA, right? Yeah. No, she didn't say this time. Okay, so we're gonna leave it there. Great. Just freaking great. All right, so that's where we've gotten to. We've actually done a really good job. We wrote 2 chapters today. Ha ha ha. Imagine that. Is that full chapter? No, that is not a full chapter. So we're at 1.5 chapters. But yeah, we have done a great job of writing. It is 3:14 p.m. We are in the middle of DeVries being discovered as also being a double agent. We had 3 moles inside this one group. We're going to find out how DeVries came to be working as a double agent and more about the story soon, and we're going to have some decisions to make. But thank you for joining me this stream. This has been a great time. I'm glad to see all of you here. I hope that you've enjoyed your time here, and I hope to see you back next week. If you love art, if you're interested in art, know that I do art from 6:30 to 8 p.m. or to 7:45 p.m. Central on Mondays. You know what? I don't think I gave you a wrench, so you just be a standard moderator. Let's see, create. If you guys have anything coming up on your channels that you want to promote, I am giving you wrenches so that you can add your links to the chat before we end the stream. I have talked more about turning this basically. So who is the bad guy? Yeah, we find out next week. That's the question, isn't it? If they're all 3 double agents, well, who are they double agenting for, and who's really in charge of this whole thing? What's hilarious is if it's the CIA and the FBI trying to get the map back from military intelligence, and so they've all got agents in there trying to get Hawkeye, or maybe one of them is pretending to be a good guy and isn't. So we'll find out. I mean, those are the options we've got available to us. Oh, so many ways we can twist and turn this, and it's always fun writing that way. It's like you're not fully knowing where the story is going and just letting it unfold as it goes. So if you don't have anything to promote, if you do not have anything to pop in the chat, it is almost 3:20. We have had a really good run. If you are interested in learning how the publishing industry works behind the scene, you can stay. If you do not care to learn about that, you can go. And, for those of you who are ever interested in publishing a book or in getting a book published, this is your chance to learn and figure out how it actually works. Because knowing how it works is how you get ahead of the game. We're going to call this how the publishing industry really works versus how most people think it works. Fun twist, your tablet won't let you. That's okay. No worries. No worries. All right. So, a couple of you didn't want to. One of you did, and that is enough for me. All right. So, here's how the publishing industry really works. Okay? Most authors get from the publisher 20% royalties on every book sold. But that's off the profit. 20% on the profit of every book sold. But, so let's take a $30 hardback. And here's how the money breaks down. Publishers are required to give the distributor, or to give the retailer a 55% discount straight off the top of the total retail sales. So on a $30 book, they make $13.50. The cost of publishing the actual books probably cost them, now if they're print on demand, it may cost them $3.50, but most publishers are actually working in bulk, so they'll pay $1.50 goes to the printer per book. Okay, and let's see how much is to the retailer. $16.50 goes to the retailer. So your Walmart, your Barnes and Nobles gets $16.50. $13.50 goes to the publisher. Of that amount, $1.50 goes to the printer. They spend roughly $5 on marketing. Okay, so that leaves us with $7.50 profit, which means the author, who is usually required to have an agent if you want to work with the big book publisher, make 75 cents goes to the author, but of that 75 cents, they actually end up having to pay 20% to their agent. So they actually end up paying, let's see, 0.75 times 0.2. Yeah. So 21% goes to their agent, which is 0.15 cents goes to the agent. Poor agent. And author comes home, author pockets. Okay, so that's how the money actually ends up breaking down. And that really means that the publishers aren't making much money. Neither is anybody else in the equation. Which is also why they're so cautious about who they take on. Okay. Now, the retailer is not being unfair in this, okay? The reason the retailer requires the 55% discount is so that they can hopefully make a profit off of it. They have to pay for the storefront. They have to pay for the clerks that sell the book. They have to pay for their own marketing. Oh, I forgot to mention the distributor. Let's talk about that. They probably pay another $2 to the distributor. So they may not even be making that. They may be making $5.50 in profit. Maybe they count the whole thing, right? So distributors are the people who are the intermediaries between the printer, the publisher, and the retailer. So basically, the publisher hands off the manuscript to the printer, and then once those books come off the printing press, they put it in the warehouse of the distributor, who then basically sells the book to the retailers. And the publisher doesn't get paid until the books are sold. If the retailer can't sell the book, retailers don't just require a 55% discount, they require returns. So essentially, you're listing your books with a retailer on commission. And you have to pay if the books get returned. You have to pay the shipping costs for those returns. You get to any profits you made because they buy the books. They can, when they return it, they return your profits. So you actually can end up in the hole. I had a friend who's a publisher. Amazon ordered 2,500 copies of her book, then returned all 2,500 copies just a month later. And it put her in the hole. So much money. So that's why the publishing industry is so stressed out. Why they want to make sure that authors absolutely can sell those books. If they don't think you can sell your books, they do not want to take you on. It's why they're risk adverse, because there is a lot of risk involved. They can spend, let's imagine that it is $1.50 to the printer for every book they publish, right? So they order 2,500 copies of the book. They pay $1.50 a book. They are in the hole $3,750. That's just for one print run, plus the cost of the cover designer. Now, good publishers will spend thousands on a solid cover. That may seem ridiculous because you go to Fiverr and you can get a $100 cover. But what they want, the extra special details, the embossing, the gold foil, they want covers that are going to stand out on a bookshelf. And they pay a lot of money to be on the end caps of the bookshelf. In fact, it runs about $500 per bookstore to buy space on those end caps. Those end caps are where the covers face the person who's browsing through the bookstore. Otherwise, you're completely reliant on the artwork on the spine of the book and the title to grab somebody's attention in a sea of books you're competing with. This is what makes it so difficult to make profits publishing books. Indies can have it a little bit easier sometimes. We can use print on demand, so we only pay for the book when it's printed. The distributors we usually go to are Ingram Spark and KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing. So we don't directly pay for the distributor until it goes to the printer. We spend out of pocket on the marketing. So if you're good at marketing on a $0 marketing budget, you can get ahead without pulling a whole lot of profit down, but that does take your time. And then you get to collect all of the profits. You don't have to deal with the agent at all. Okay? So here's the other side of it. Because publishing is such an investment of money, usually publishers are going to invest about $5,000 in marketing and another $2,500 between editing and book covers, just to make sure that the book has a chance of selling. So they expect authors to come market ready. You need to be able to identify who your target audience is. If you are a fiction writer, most fiction writers have a really hard time with this. Most fiction publishers have a really hard time with it, but I'll make it easy for you. The audience of your book is going to be centered around your main character of your book. The person you're most likely to attract to read it is going to see themselves in that main character. That's why Harry Potter, as an 11-year-old boy, was a very attractive book for 11-year-old boys and girls, but 11-year-old boys. It drew them in because it was a story they could relate to. They often felt overlooked, undervalued, underappreciated, and lacking in power, which is where Harry Potter started that story. And only later did he grow in power, which gave them hope, gave them a reason to keep reading. They saw him growing in power. They saw him gaining in skill. They saw magic as a path to power, which is what made magic very attractive in their eyes. It's a path to power. Now, a lot of Christians did not like Harry Potter. And a lot of people felt it was pulling our young people toward magic and wizardry as an answer to the world's problems. But what few people will point out and few people recognize is that it was actually a veiled statement against what happens in a world where everything comes too easy. You see, in a magic world, there is no problem that can't be solved with the flick of a wrist and the wave of a wand, except the most important problems of all, which are the human relationship problems. Okay? So at any rate, that's a little bit of a diatribe. But to get back to my point, the main character reflected who the target audience would be. Each book had a successively older age group it could appeal to, which is the nice thing about a series, is that it can pull in a wider range of people because the characters evolve over time. And so who they are in book 1 is going to appeal to one set of audiences, and who they are in book 2 will appeal to a different set. And it also means you're more likely to make more long-lasting book sales. One of the biggest mistakes made in the publishing industry is that, in essence, people stop with the book, and that's why they don't make the big profits. As I'm pointing out to you here, that $5.50 profit that your average publisher is making per book, and has to subtract, probably is making $4.95 after the, or $4.75 after the author gets paid. So that $4.75 that they're making per book, well, do the math, friends. It takes a lot of money made before they even break even. They probably spent 10 grand. So let's see how much money we have to make before we can break even. 10 grand divided by $4.75 profit per book. You're looking at selling 2,105 copies before you've even broken even on what they've spent. And here's the kicker on that. That 2,105 copies, most books never sell more than 250 copies in their entire lifetime. It's actually incredibly difficult. Most authors have a lot of trouble selling books. And some of that goes back to the nature of what it is to be a writer. We often write because writing is easier than talking to people in public. And a lot of times we come from troubled backgrounds, which is why the myth of the drunken author is so prevalent, why a lot of authors needed, quote unquote, needed alcohol in order to write freely. We often come with a lot of baggage from backgrounds where it was easier to remain hidden than to step forward and become visible. And because of that, have trouble promoting our own work. because when you promote your work, you have to step forward and allow yourself to be seen. If you've been watching my channel from the point where I really got serious about it, you'll notice that I didn't at first spend much of any time in front of the camera. It was almost always my voice, but not my face. Now I've gotten more comfortable with being the face of my channel, and Real Talk features entirely me being on camera. And there's a reason for that. It's because I want to train myself to be more visible, to step up and allow myself to be seen, because that's what makes you a more marketable author. It makes it easier for people to identify with you. It makes it easier for people to connect with you because there's a literal face to attach to the name. But this is the behind the scene of the publishers. Publishers are afraid of losing money. They're closing down right, left, and center because the people in charge of the publishing industry are largely literary majors who have little to no business acumen. So they're adopting books based on what they like, or what they think will sell, or what the retail numbers show has been selling, rather than a solid understanding of why people buy books and why people want to read them and who reads what kind of book and how to figure out who your target audience is. They are not business people. They are not business strategists. They are readers and fans. I guess I can actually go webcam instead of web. Well, I'm still capturing the window because I have things written on here that might be useful to you. So the real way to make money off of a book is to stop focusing on the book alone and start focusing on what else you can do with the book. That's how the real money gets made. It's coaching programs, educational programs, it's movies, it's television shows, it's games, it's jewelry lines, fashion lines, all the things that go into creating an immersive experience for your reader. Let them live in the world you've created. Let them become the world you've made and see themselves in that world. And when you can do that, you continue serving your audience at higher and higher levels, then your work becomes more and more valuable. Now, that is how the publishing industry works behind the scenes. And you might be asking yourself at this point, why in the world would anybody choose to work with a traditional publisher if 60 cents is what you can expect to make on a $30 book? And the answer to that question is that what traditional publishers bring to the table are decades, sometimes centuries of contacts and connections they've built up to Hollywood, to educational institutions, to libraries, to networks to book clubs, all the places that can get your book read. And the New York Times still favors traditional publishers over independent publishers when it comes to reviewing books. Also, there are contests, and contests are a huge part of your promotional and marketing strategy. Those contests give third-party validation to your work. They tell readers, hey, this is something you should take a look at. The reviews, there are some reviewers that will not review independent published works. There are some people who will not, contests will not consider anybody who independently or self-published. They just won't. They consider it basically slop. There are traditional publishers who will deny you the ability to publish through their publishing house if you self-published first. That is starting to change. There are shifts being made in the industry, but that is where the publishing industry stands right now. It is an industry in vast need of reconstruction from the ground up, re-envisioning and reimagining. So if you are an author right now and you're feeling that there's no hope for your work, that's not true. There's plenty of people still reading books out there. There's plenty of people still hungry for new content and new material. The audiences are out there are begging for it. They're begging for publishing houses to stop retreading old content and re-releasing old plot lines. They're tired of the romantasy that is basically nothing more than veiled pornography. Clean work, good work, solid literature, it has an audience. It has a demand. But if you're going to make money in publishing, the business does not end with the book. The book is the beginning of what you can do with it. And if you really want to make a living out of being an author, you have to look and think beyond the book. So, I hope you've enjoyed this dive into the publishing industry. Are there any questions you have that I have not covered or gone over? Things that you would like to know about the publishing industry that you may not have thought to ask? If not, I will close it here. I appreciate you being here for writing and chatting in this particular section of how the publishing industry actually works. I hope you found it useful. I hope you found it interesting. If you do have any questions, you know how to reach me. I'll put my email in the chat. And you can reach me there with any questions you have about publishing, about writing, or everything in between. Thanks for watching. This has been a great stream. I really appreciate you being here. Have a great rest of your afternoon.